Loaded morning of 49ers news. All three phases of the game. Headlined again by Christian McCaffrey, who's doing his best Nick Bosa bear impersonation. This is from the one and only CMC offseason training video posted to his Instagram. This is very interesting. San Francisco special teams coordinator Brant Boyer has reportedly met with Syracuse punter Jack Stonehouse, even though the 49ers signed a punter, Corliss Waitman, last month. Remember that Waitman has better metrics than Thomas Morstead put up for the 49ers last year. So theoretically, the 49ers have already upgraded at punter. However, according to Ryan Fowler's report, San Francisco has expressed interest in Stonehouse throughout the process, and the team is expected to add a punter either through the draft or in undrafted free agency. Now, Jack Stonehouse is one of the best punters in this college football class. He absolutely dominated the East-West Shrine game. He had 3 punts with a hang time of over 5 seconds. He even had a really, really good punt where he was getting hit. I mean, the guy is athletic. The guy comes from a punting family. This to me is fascinating. There's real pedigree here. His dad, John Stonehouse, played at USC and for the New York Giants. Both of his uncles punted in college. Paul Stonehouse for Stanford, Jeff Stonehouse for Washington State, and his cousin, Ryan Stonehouse, punted in the NFL for the Titans. On top of all that, his mom, Sue, played soccer at UCLA. So obviously the talent runs in the family, and I think that the 49ers are absolutely open to further upgrading the punting position. But the most interesting part of everything to me, and I nerd out a little bit about this special teams, but we cover the details here fully on the channel, is that Corliss Waitman, whom the 49ers signed last month, is a lefty. He's a left-footed punter, and the ball comes off of the left foot differently than the right foot, so that can be challenging to returners. Well, consider the fact that the 49ers are going to have to pick a new punt returner over the course of this offseason. Sky Moore has signed with the Green Bay Packers. We talk about how the 49ers might be able to fill that gap, and maybe they draft Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. He was a really good punt returner over the course of his college career. But if they're holding punt returner tryouts over the course of OTAs and training camp, and if most punters in the league are right-footed punters, the 49ers might really benefit from having a right-footed punter in the building so that their guys trying out for punts can field those punts off the left foot of Corliss Waitman and off the right foot of a punter to be named. And that could be a big reason why the 49ers are interested in Jack Stonehouse. He was good enough, though, at Syracuse to say, hey, if he gets into the building as an undrafted free agent for the 49ers, and that's likely how this would have to happen. He's either going to be a 7th-round pick, maybe a 6th-round pick, but probably a 7th-round pick or an undrafted free agent. And the 49ers currently don't hold a 7. But if he gets into the building, I think he's got a good chance to beat out Corliss Waitman, even though Waitman signed for a contract featuring $400,000 guaranteed. Obviously, the 49ers would be willing to eat that if they're interested in Jack Stonehouse and if he is a better punter. But we shall see. I do know that Brant Boyer knows what he's doing, and he was able to turn around this 49ers special teams unit in just one season. He arrived at the start of the 2025 season. He's a guy who's obsessed with special teams. It is his passion, and obviously he got a big boost from Eddie Pinheiro, who replaced Jake Moody last season, but he also saw a nice boost from Thomas Morstead. He saw a nice boost from the new 49ers long snapper, who is John Weeks. Weeks and Pinheiro have re-signed. Morstead remains unsigned. Out of the trio that I just mentioned, the 49ers kicking operation, Morstead was the worst performer, but he was still a very good holder for Eddie Pinheiro, who only missed that one 64-yard field goal. Corliss Waitman held for a very good kicker in Pittsburgh and Chris Boswell, and that's going to be part of a kicking competition if the 49ers do indeed bring in another punter. If they do indeed bring in Jack Stonehouse, he's going to have to show that Eddie Pinheiro is comfortable with his holding, because You've got to have the entire operation on the same page. Otherwise, things can get ugly. So keep your eyes peeled because the 49ers are trying to win at the margins. The surge of special teams from dead last in 2024 in the pre-Brant Boyer era to number 2 behind only Seattle last year was very important to this 49ers team. And this scouting of the punter, Jack Stonehouse, is only another step in the 49ers' obsession to get better in this third phase of the game. I mean, they won 13 games last year, and they would not have won 13 games if special teams had not surged to number 2 in the league, with Eddie Pinheiro being the ringleader of that effort on the field and Brant Boyer being the leader of that effort off of it. So keep your eyes peeled. This is interesting. So I promised all 3 phases of the game. Well, on the defensive side, the 49ers, according to his Instagram, have hosted a defensive tackle prospect in this 2026 draft. It is Chris McClellan out of the University of Missouri. Big defensive tackle, 6'4", 313 pounds, has played both the 1 technique and the 3 technique. Projected to be a mid-round pick, 3rd or 4th round. And as we know, the 49ers have 4 4th-round selections as we currently speak in this 2026 NFL draft. 1st round, 2nd round, nothing in the 3rd round, 4 in the 4th. And that might be a sweet spot for Chris McClellan. Now, this might come as a mild surprise because I think that acutely, if you look at where the 49ers are at, defensive end is a bigger need, but this is also a reminder of what appropriate draft mentality is, and it's a best player available kind of thing. The NFL draft is not a place where you can specifically pick and choose every single selection to perfectly fit a spot in your roster. If you try to do that, you're going to fail in the NFL draft at way too high of a rate. It is a crapshoot by nature. You want to maximize the chances of a guy who was good in college being good in the NFL. And if you're going to do that, then you need to focus on premier talent. And if you hit a pick in the 4th round and you really like Chris McClellan, who visited the 49ers yesterday, then Chris McClellan should probably be the pick if you like him that much more than everyone else. I don't know if the 49ers are going to be in that position, but it certainly is a possibility since he is one of this team's top 30 visits. Dane Brugler on The Beast said, overall, McClellan isn't a consistent disruptor, but he checks boxes with his physical characteristics and developing recognition skills. He projects as a rotational lineman on the interior who can give teams quality snaps as a 0 and 1 technique. So nose tackle at the NFL level is Dane Brugler's projection. As I said, 313 pounds. The 49ers, they're in an interesting spot right now because Osa Odighizuwa is obviously a 3 technique. He's only about 290 pounds. So he's a pure pass rusher. Then you look at both Alfred Collins and CJ West, and I think there's a little bit more interchangeability with those 2 guys because they're just so large. They're both over 320 pounds. Collins, obviously, with the height, lends itself more to a rotational 3 technique spot. CJ West, I think you'd more naturally look at him as a 1 technique, but he's so explosive that I think he can also be a 3. Somebody like McClellan, if he goes in the 4th round and the 49ers are adding interior depth, I think what you heard from Dane Brugler there definitely applies. I think he's probably much more of a natural 1 technique nose tackle fit. That is a guy who's supposed to absorb double teams and isn't counted on to be much of a pass rusher, especially, again, if he's a mid-round pick as opposed to a 1st-round pick. That's where you set your expectations. But would it be another block gobbler and somebody who would be important for the 49ers in stopping the run? Do I think that picking a defensive tackle is likely? No. Is it possible? Of course, the 49ers should leave no stone unturned and should be looking at every single position. This day and age, the wide 9 is being run with greater regularity around the entire NFL. And if you're going to try to benefit your edge rushers and your pass rushing defensive tackles by spreading out those defensive linemen, right, like an accordion spreading out and having them play on bigger islands, the defensive tackles are going to have some size to combat the run. They're going to have some range. They're going to have some size. You're going to have to find rare athletic combinations to make that position work. And the 49ers took care of a lot of that business in last year's draft with Alfred Collins and CJ West, and they're looking to take care of more of that business this offseason. The trade for Osa Odighizuwa was big. Remember, it's not just about the run-stopping ability, and last offseason, I get it that the 49ers focused on that, but then they only combined for 56 pressures when you tallied all of their defensive tackles together. Osa Odighizuwa on his own had 52 last year for the Cowboys. So now they're trying to boost that interior pass rush. And if they feel that they need more rotational defensive tackle depth to allow guys like CJ West and Alfred Collins to focus on the pass rush, that could also be another impetus to draft another defensive tackle. But in all likelihood, defensive end, as we look at it, is the position that the 49ers are going to attack earlier in this NFL draft. We've already seen reported top 30 visits for Malachi Lawrence of Central Florida and Romello Height of Texas Tech. If you want to look at the other 30 visits, well, yesterday we reported Chris Brazell II, the lanky, fast receiver out of Tennessee. That was after they hosted the lanky, fast Caleb Douglas, who is another Texas Tech product. He transferred over from Florida, where he was teammates with Ricky Pearsall. Douglas has also visited the 49ers, as have three wideouts projected to go earlier in the draft. I mentioned Concepcion. He has return ability, which could kill two birds with one stone for the 49ers. Denzel Boston, the tall receiver out of Washington, who could immediately become an understudy for Mike Evans. And Omar Cooper Jr., a versatile wideout from the defending national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers, a team that also featured CJ West at one point. Two 49ers currently came from the Indiana Hoosiers. CJ West, the defensive tackle, good first year for him, and Curtis Rourke, who was the starting quarterback of Indiana before Fernando Mendoza transferred from Cal and won the Heisman Trophy along with a national championship. Fans did not get to see Curtis Rourke in action on game day last year. He was still recovering from a torn ACL, so he spent this season on the NFI list, but he might even be the favorite for that number 3 QB position. 49ers still have Adrian Martinez behind Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. We'll see how that all plays out. I think that Rourke, a little bit more of a wild card. They picked him in the 7th round of that 2025 NFL draft. I'm just curious who the punter is going to be for the 49ers next year. Is it going to be the lefty, Corliss Waitman, or is it going to be Jack Stonehouse, who's got a great punter's name and obviously that punter's pedigree? It's very rare that on April 14th, you've got news affecting all phases of the game. And Christian McCaffrey, well, I did a whole video after some of the pictures dropped, and now the video was dropped. And yeah, Christian is locked in. He's motivated. You know, I've sensed a lot of urgency from the 49ers this offseason, both on a business level from the front office, finding these bargains, finding players who are hungry, or, you know, obviously Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, veterans in this league who I think are really, really starving to win a championship. 49ers have insulated depth at positions that you need to go out and try to withstand the marathon to win a championship. And then you look at this from a training level, Mike Evans putting in work, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we see pretty cool training videos from Christian McCaffrey annually, but this one probably took the cake. I mean, this was good. And, you know, I'd love to see more training videos from Nick Bosa. I get that he's probably still in a rehab phase and he doesn't really post as many training videos. There were those with Joey that he put up from some park out in Florida. And I think they have a training compound, like a gym out in Florida. And who knows, maybe by the end of this offseason, both Nick and Joey Bosa will be 49ers. A lot of it's going to depend on how this draft goes, I think. If they exit the draft still in need of defensive ends, maybe the 49ers price changes. If Joey Bosa goes through this NFL draft, I know he can't be picked by a team, but if he goes through this draft and still doesn't have the offers at the level that he wants, then, or at least one offer at the level that he wants, maybe his price comes down. Maybe the 49ers and Joey can meet in the middle, but we'll see. First, we'll focus on the punter. Nowhere else do you hear this much about the 49ers' potential punting competition coming up, but I do think that every yard matters. The Seahawks They had a tremendous punting advantage last season. I mean, that's why they were number one in special teams, because of how good they were in the punting game, and the 49ers want to pick up some slack there. Maybe that's how they overtake Seattle as the number one special teams unit in the NFL. Maybe that's how they overcome Seattle in totality. Special teams, a big part of this. So Jack Stonehouse, meet Brant Boyer. Let's see if he also meets Corliss Waitman as this all moves forward.